Well, thank you so much for joining us for this presentation. My name is Fanny, and if you hear an accent, it's because I was born and raised in France. I'll try my best with English. I'm here to represent Racing to Relate. I'm one of their ambassadors. And the reason I'm here is because none of them could be there. Racing to Relate is a charity based in Great Britain, but it really has a global interest. None of them can travel at the time. I happen to have a green card. I was thrilled to come here. It's really important for Racing to Relate to be here because we want to connect, be able to introduce ourselves, what we do, our research and development initiative, and our current research. We'll be launching an online survey globally on Monday. We want to learn from you and also your experiences. We think inspiration is important, and we are looking forward to be inspired by you and maybe share ideas and grow from there. Who am I? I'm not a researcher. I'm just a storyteller. I do TV, but as strange as it may seem to you, the one thing, I love horses more than anything, and I love to document the relationship between horses and people. The one thing I hate is to make presentations. I'm really bad at it. It freaks me out. I think it's memories from my studies. I don't know. So you'll have to bear with me here. The only reason I'm doing it is because I'm passionate about this project. And as I could say, Jenny and other members of the team could not be here. But
can I interrupt you for a second? If you don't hit snooze, it's going to restart your computer, and I don't think you want it to do that.
So I should just say thank you so much for your help. Snooze, here.
Yep.
So enough about me anyway. Racing to Relate. What is Racing to Relate? It's a charity based in England. We focus on helping former racehorses to help people. So the focus is on research. We want to facilitate and help share support, promotion, and knowledge about best practices for equine assisted services. It's a recognized charity with funding in England, and it was endorsed by some national and international horse racing authorities. I'm going to read them because I don't want to mess it up. So the International Forum for Aftercare of Racehorses, the British Horse Racing Authority, Horse Racing Ireland, the South African Jockey Club, the New Zealand Racing, and also retraining aftercare charities all over Europe. It's very important for Racing to Relate to include animal behavior and welfare into the research. Not just the welfare of humans, but the welfare of horses as well. And our interest, of course, is to use off-track thoroughbreds, which doesn't mean that we're closing the doors. We're real interested in all aspects of equine assisted services, because this will help us help the horses in the best possible way and find out which horses are best suited. So there's a long-standing relationship between the thoroughbreds and the humans, and they give so much to us on the track. It's very important for us to make sure that we treat them well and that we're sure to give back what they're owed. The vision is really thoroughbred welfare, and Jenny included here something about the logo, which was created by a French artist, and it represents the historic partnership. It's just one line. And the man who made the logo actually worked for Armani and other places, but he has horses, he rides, and he did this to help the charity. The team, Adrian Pratt is our chairman. He's from England, but he's also a traveler, one of us who likes to travel and spends a lot of time in France as well. They are all interested, all the chairman and trustee have an interest in horse racing, horse riding. Some of them have connections to the military, and a very strong emphasis also on mental health and welfare for the horses. The co-founders are Adrian Pratt, Jennifer Toomey, the director who put this presentation together with the help of some of our researchers, Anna Buckingham. She is a mental health specialist based in the US. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us today, but she's a very big part of the team. And then there are several other members who were assembled, who are volunteers and were assembled by Jennifer and others. And I'm not going to name all the people who are supporting, but a very important part to mention is the research and the research partnership between Racing to Relate, the University of Bristol, and John Pierce Foundation, who partnered to be able to help research. So why research? Originally, they were a group of horse enthusiasts, and we were all concerned about aftercare of racehorses and mental health in many humans. And we had too many ideas, and it was going in every direction, and we found ourselves in a barn. And I was writing down tons of notes, but we were not going anywhere. So I said, let's just rethink it, take post-its and try and narrow it down. And the thing that made the most sense to begin with was to have a research that would encompass the state of what's happening now. And we happen to have within our team a person who is about to embark on a doctorate, and she's the one conducting the research. So why Thoroughbred Assisted? We focus on building and informing an innovative and widely collaborative knowledge platform, evidence-based, that's very important, to be able to share what we find out and what others have found out. The idea is not to reinvent the wheel here and just pretend that we've found something completely new. And the idea also is to make the findings that are that we come to, or that other people trust us with, to make them open source, so that there is a platform where people can access the information that they're looking for. Now, this is written very small, and they've compiled it in the last hour. So the idea is for everybody to benefit from it, in the benefits to the Equine Assisted Services sector, benefits to the Thoroughbred sector, benefits to the public, benefits to the research community. I know it would take way too long to read everything on this, unless you have time, and I'll be happy to do that.
Fanny?
Yes?
Because it's hard to hear your voice.
Oh, sorry. Is it better now?
Yeah, over here.
Okay. Well, the benefits for the sector, the Equine Assisted Services sector, is the opportunity to be at the heart of the groundbreaking research, free and open access to the science-based Racing to Relate industry resources and guidelines for best practices, a deeper portrait of the off-track thoroughbred, their essential qualities and requirements for a second career, a platform for sharing of experiences from grassroots EAS services worldwide, creation of cross-industry collaboration opportunities, and evidence-based broadening of the horse-human relationship, enhance horse welfare across all EAS contexts. The benefits for the thoroughbred sector: a free and open resource for the management of thoroughbreds transitioning to second careers or elsewhere. A deeper understanding of the equine assisted services as an option for the off-track thoroughbreds, opportunity for collaboration and support from the science-based initiatives in thoroughbred welfare, promotion and enhancement of horse welfare across the thoroughbred and racing sector, improving perception and industry profile, open access to robust research, evidencing proven requirements of the off-track thoroughbreds to help owners implement industry welfare protocols, collaborative opportunities to be a fundamental contributor to the groundbreaking research, support for an equal weighing of the horse and human welfare consideration with equine assisted services practice. Benefits for the research community: support and funding for groundbreaking research, comprehensive dissemination of the complete research outcomes across the heart of the equine industry, opportunities for collaborating with professionals in both equine assisted services and thoroughbred contexts, networking opportunities within the thoroughbred industry worldwide, collaboration opportunities with other academic professionals and creatives in the equine assisted services sector, support in assessing the best organizations and facilities to undertake the research. I'll just take a deep breath. And the benefits for the public: open and accessible research outcomes available to all rodening and unpacking thoroughbred welfare both on and off track, an open resource to learn more about the equine assisted services and its values, a reflection on the positive aspects of the racing industry and the high level care of racehorses, a platform to read and watch inspiring horses, human stories from around the world. I promise there won't be as much reading for the rest. So as I was telling you, there is a PhD research being led right now. It's a joint project. Racing to Relate was able to acquire funding from the John Pierce Foundation, and working with the University of Bristol, that university matched the same funding. Claire Neveu is the researcher, and her subject is the selection and education of former racehorses, thoroughbreds for equine assisted therapy, developing the evidence base of global standards. This is just a word of appreciation from the John Pierce Foundation. We are extremely grateful for their support. It was very important that the first project Racing to Relate could put forward was a research project. This is the team working on it, and we will have a chance to hear from some of them. So most of them are researchers. Claire Neveu is right here in the middle. She's the doctorate student, and Jennifer Toomey, our director, who's been one of the masterminds with Anna Beacon, is right here. So the key features for our research project were, when we started chartering Racing to Relate, we realized there was a really big need for evidence-based communication. Everybody has a feeling that the horses are helping humans, but as was mentioned in previous sessions today, we just need to be able to show it. There'll be 3 phases in the research, and you guys are going to talk to us, tell us about them. The collaboration is also very important. We want to make sure that everybody benefits, the horses and the humans, but sometimes we forget about the horses, so we want to be able to measure the impact on them as well. And of course, there's value to Racing to Relate, which is a new charity, and we want to play our part in helping. So we'll have a chance to hear from 3 of our researchers. The first one The first one is Professor Mullen from the University of Dublin.
My name is Professor Mullen. I'm Professor of Animal Welfare and Veterinary Ethics at UCD, the Veterinary School in Dublin, Ireland. I've been working for quite a while on racehorse welfare, and particularly thinking about ways to assess their welfare and potentially deliver improvements. And as part of that, and kind of ever increasing conversations around what happens to racehorses after they finish their racing career, we had a really nice and good collaboration with Racing to Relate to try and bring these areas of welfare assessment with the specific area that they are interested in terms of using ex or former racehorses as therapy horses. There's been a kind of a gradual interest in what former racehorses go on to do, and it's kind of no longer acceptable for the industries to not have the answers anymore. So it's very clear that as part of a social license, that kind of legitimacy is provided through transparent display of understanding of post-racing careers and what horses go on to do. And I guess the kind of the more positive that public see those horses being for society, for individuals, then the sort of better that's able to be framed. And of course, a therapy horse is a really positive story, which I think does lead legitimacy to to the whole activity around racing. You know, people are describing them as being potentially really, really good in certain conditions because they are very responsive. So they're responding to the humans really well. They don't just kind of, you know, switch off, which is actually not necessarily what's needed in many settings. So and we also should look around the world, because in other parts of the world there are almost the predominant horses in riding stables, in equine assisted therapy settings, because that's what's available. So yeah, maybe where there's more variety of horses, we haven't been thinking about thoroughbreds to the forefront, but no reason at all why they shouldn't be really suitable. I think we've made huge strides in very many areas. So I mean, you know, the medical care for racehorses is phenomenal. Obviously, it's you know, that's the kind of whole raison d'être, to be physically fit and well enough to race and so on. I think there's some other aspects that we're kind of playing a bit of rapid catch up on, and that might be partly because of the way the science has developed. So, you know, veterinary science as a discipline, well, in fact, it really started as a discipline around horses when there were some, you know, work horses, and that's developed really well. And then this whole other side of things about thinking about the mental well-being and the behaviour and so on of the racehorses is kind of coming along a little bit later. But anybody who knows horses, who understands them, you know, obviously is thinking about those things all the time. So for sure, the stable staff and, you know, people who are dealing with the horses are very concerned about, you know, how horses feel and their experience of the world. And I think, you know, one of the things that I've been really pleasantly surprised about is actually the kind of interest from trainers that we've been working with in the UK, and kind of willingness from some trainers to really take this on board and make, you know, quite dramatic changes to their yards and the way they do things in this area, and that will carry through to the sort of post-racing career as well, thinking about this very holistic idea of horse welfare being beyond just, you know, the perfect athlete, more to you know, also the mental well-being as well.
Professor Mullen had done some research already with the British racing industry to try and assess horse welfare elements, and that's one of the reasons why she was chosen to be one of the directors for Claire's thesis.
Hi everyone, I'm
Claire.
Claire Neveu. I'm a PhD student at the University of Bristol Vet School, and I'm working on my PhD thesis on the selection and training of former racehorses for equine assisted therapy, developing the evidence base for global standard. Our research project consists in 3 phases. In phase 1, we will gather and analyze data from a very large survey on EAT program and retraining practice in different countries in the world. This information will provide us with the necessary foundation of numbers, activities and routine of former racehorses and other horses in EAT programs. In phase 2, our objective is to determine how to detect suitable former racehorses for EAT program, and for that, we will assess the horse personality and welfare in several EAT centers and retraining facilities. In phase 3, our final objective is to determine key factors in efficient, successful retraining program, utilizing minimum stressful session with the horse. And of course, we will also observe EAT program already using Thoroughbreds. On November 1st, we will launch our survey for phase 1 on the selection and training of equine assisted servicing program. This survey is an international survey. We focus mainly on the UK, Ireland, the United States of America and France, but we will also spread it all over the world in order to have to map out equine assisted services everywhere. This survey is very important for our PhD research project, but it will take a bit of time, about half an hour, for people filling the survey. And you must prepare a few documents before filling it, such as your training and your team training, your horse passport with breed, age, and stuff like that. And also which type of programs you have, which kind of beneficiaries do you have, and it will be very helpful for you to fill in the survey then.
We have, so again, it's launching on Monday, and you can find the survey on the website. We've got the, it's just thoroughbrediassisted.org. Here are some examples of what might be asked. I think the data will be only, our data will be only as good as the input from other people, so that's very important. If we want to be able to share something afterwards, we need as much input as we can. And there was a small section added on the impact of the COVID pandemic. There's a pilot project in Northern Ireland that Racing to Relate is also supporting, where some of the testing will be done, and that's where we're testing the protocol for phase 2, which hopefully later we can expand to other areas and other projects. And to tell us about it is another one of our researchers.
My name is Dr. Jo Hockenhall, and I'm a research fellow at the University of Bristol Vet School. I've only just started working with Racing to Relate officially, so I've now come on board the project. Essentially to work with Claire on her PhD and her fieldwork and her data collection. It wasn't something that had come into my attention until I spoke to Jennifer about this project, to be honest. After speaking to her about it, I can see how it would make sense, because sort of Thoroughbreds have this reputation of being very sensitive horses, and you could just see how that would be a real asset in that kind of program. But certainly within the UK, we have this whole like, oh my god, it's a thoroughbred, and this sort of fear about using them outside of sort of racing or competitive situations, and I love that sort of, what is it that we put on them that makes us have that feeling? Because certainly in different areas in the world, like Hong Kong, they use them for riding schools, they use them in equine assisted services. So the whole cultural thing around UK and thoroughbreds is something that really personally intrigues me. But yeah, I think now I've started looking into it, there is the odd, you hear the odd story of people using them in different places. So it's definitely becoming, I think, a growing awareness of their potential in that area. The pilot project is something that I think we're all really excited about, because just having that opportunity to follow these horses as they transition from their racing careers into their equine assisted work is just really exciting. So Jean and Daria, who work on the yard in Northern Ireland, they've been collecting a lot of data for us already, just looking at the horses' behaviour in the stable, in pasture and in their training. And then Claire and I are going over tomorrow, in fact, to start doing some of the personality tests that Claire's been piloting for her, the later phases of her PhD work. So these are tests that have been used in the literature already, so they're validated tests. We've sort of got a simplified protocol that we can run through with these horses. It's essentially looking at how they react to novelty in different ways. So we've got a novel object, we've got a novel surface, like a tarpaulin to walk on, and how they react to some object, so which is like an umbrella opening. So yeah, there's a range of different tests, and also how they react to touch as well. So yeah, it would be really interesting to see what we find. So Claire's used these before in some sort of pre-pilot work, so we're just doing this now on June's horses to see what we get there. The whole relationship and what can develop between a horse and a person is just an area that I find really fascinating, and just how that bond grows, how you learn from each other, and how that develops over time. Oh my God, there's so much I want to know about, and it's so much down to people people's personal experiences, and it's questions like that. And I guess in some ways, it really relates to the Ballygrafton pilot, because it's not something you can easily set up experimentally, that it's experience that people and their horses have over time. So having the opportunity to look at sort of gene developing relationships with horses, although that's a different thing. I love the idea of following people like normal horse owners and their horses as well, but just watching how different individual personalities of the people and the horses relate to each other and how that develops as well. I just find it fascinating. From my perspective, for me, I'm just finding it very positive across the whole sector, how people are starting looking at it from the horses' perspective as well as the humans. And that's the other thing I really love about this project is we're watching the horses' journey, and we're seeing the impacts on them, and we're seeing what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And I think us understanding that element of the whole process is so important. And so far, when it's increasingly looked at within the scientific research, and oh my goodness, all the practitioners you talk to, it is something they're considering. But it's so positive to see it gaining all this research attention and dare I say, attracting the funding that people can actually look at it properly like we are.
This is a word from Jennifer Toomey, who's our director. The PhD study in this first Thoroughbred Assisted pilot have already attracted considerable interest from key international stakeholders in the Thoroughbred and Equine Assisted Services communities. We're incredibly grateful to all the people involved, and we hope this interest is the beginning of some inspiring collaborations with industry professionals across both sectors. The pilot has become a super opportunity to work together, exchange ideas and experiences, and shape these future collaborations. As we develop, we are learning more and more about the important work in these equine assisted services and welfare context. We look forward to the opportunity to share our collective knowledge building processes over the next few months. I apologize for having to read so much, but since I'm not one of the researchers and I'm their spokesperson, I want to make sure that they get their word in. The key word, though, there's only one to remember, well, two keywords: open and collaborate. Open so that everybody can have access to the findings, and collaborating because we'll be stronger and we can achieve so much more together. I find it actually interesting that we were able to create, to build bridges at the same time as Brexit was tearing Europe apart. And part of our team is in France, part of the team is in England, and we have collaborators elsewhere. But as some people were trying to tear us apart, we were building connections, and our common thread to all the people involved is the horse. The horse is the best reason and the best motivation to all stay together. So feel free to connect with us. The website, thoroughbreds.org, is already online. The idea is to turn it gradually to a platform that's made available to everybody, with the findings and the information and the protocols from the collaborative research knowledge, and also use this as a hub for raising awareness, for fundraising, because really Racing to Relate is a body that helps finance research if we can. We don't do the research ourselves. We're not a university, and the idea is to help others, help horses, help people, and of course the connection is very important. I was very touched by the mention of storytelling as an important tool in the fundraising box, because that's something I know I can do much better than read slides, and I think those are the stories that grab you, and those are how sometimes you need the data. They're very important, but sometimes for the people to read the data, it's important to just grab their attention, and if they're not researchers, if they're not professors, to just get the hook. The stories are very important, plus they motivate us, and sometimes they make us laugh, sometimes they make us cry, at times both. They're important. horses, but I've also been covering thoroughbred racing for more years than I care to say. I've been lucky to make a living, being paid to go abroad and watch horse racing in different countries. But the most important part that I've retained is the people and the horses I've met along the way and their connection. More than, people will ask about, if somebody asks me what was the odd of that horse when he won the Kentucky Derby, well, I don't remember. But I will remember the groom who cried, or I will remember the person, the touching stories that remind us of our connections. Our chairman, Adrian Pratt, is known in some stables as the carrot man. He's the one who brings the carrots to the horses, and he has one racehorse who does not like carrot, and it almost upsets Adrian that Adrian doesn't like carrots. I think that was a special thank you from Jenny to Bells and the conference, to everybody who's helped us be here and hopefully move forward. If you have questions, I know we're probably going to run out of time soon, and if you have questions, remarks, things that... Yes?
How is this going to happen in practice? I mean, say you have all these thoroughbreds and they're all brilliant with people. How are you going to get it into practice, and how many people will have access to their gift?
Okay, so we personally at the moment do not have a facility for thoroughbreds. What we're doing in that first project is helping Claire do some research to assess. So the first phase is she's getting surveys to know what facilities are doing what with what horses, what types of horses they're using, what horses are suited better for certain things, how things work. And then in the second phase, they're going to run personality tests and try and perfect, if I could say, build, I don't have the word, I'm sorry about that. But from my understanding of what she's doing is to have almost a map of what horses would be good for what purpose, and then share that with other people and create educational content material and share it with others. But the purpose of this project is not to have a facility where everything will be happen. The idea is to then go to different conferences and meet some people, have an online platform where things can be shared, and also encourage discussion to keep sharing these. But the idea is to share it with as many people as possible, but not at one venue or one facility.
No, I'm not thinking of one venue, but surely the end goal is to have many facilities where people can come and benefit from what the thoroughbreds give them.
Absolutely, yes. And Racing to Relate is not trying to be a place that gives a seal of approval. It's not a training facility at all. It's more collecting and helping share some data and material. It will not substitute itself to any of the programs out there.
So would it produce, building on your question, like a database of
Yes.
those programs worldwide? So I'm thinking of the Thoroughbred Makeover Project in this country, where they have a competition to see whose thoroughbred
Yes.
can do more things, and those kinds of programs. So you would put together a database of that.
I'm not clear, but I think that's my understanding of what's going to be done. There would be an online platform with all kinds of, almost a database of what's out there. So it could be a list of links, a list of places, a list of findings, and as people are producing research papers, for example, some of them, the ones that are not copyrighted, would be there. And that's one thing that Claire and Jenny wanted me to insist on. Part of the funding and part of the discussion with the John Pierce Foundation, who's the main funder, University of Bristol matched the rest, was they were very curious when Claire and Jenny said they wanted it to be open source, because sometimes research, I understand, can be competitive and people want to hold on, but the basis of this project is not to keep everything for, you know, and have everything on a shelf. It's really to be shared. And also maybe provide a hub for others who have interesting things that would like maybe a platform. Because we all have our own little circles, and if we can make those circles cross, we can reach, hopefully, have a bigger outreach. I really wish I could bring the other people in the room with me, because they probably would be. Yes.
Amy, I have a question. I know early on there was discussion, I think you mentioned about the welfare of the horse too.
Yes.
And that's not really part of the personality testing, and all of that has to do with that as well.
Yes,
right?
definitely. Thank you for
Yeah,
helping me with
yeah.
that. And part of the survey as well is taking that into consideration, and questions as to how some horses might have been affected, or what you might have observed, what steps you took. I think that's a very important part of the process, and that's something that Joe was mentioning, is we often focus on the human side, but it's important not to forget about the horses. And there has not been that much data at the moment that we know of, and if you do, we're very curious to find out about that. And if you do have projects, and if you want to let us know about, we're really curious about everything that's happening. But one thing that Claire was thinking is that there has, for example, the Man of War project, and it's fascinating, and we hope that we can work with them also with our protocols, but we'd be interested to know what the effect has been on the horses as well, or what they've learned from their time, as Jody was saying, what they've learned in the process, and how that can inform other projects in what they're doing. And different people might have different horses, but similar cases, and might be able to find in a database a case study that's similar to something they've experienced. Hopefully that's the idea anyway. So how many of you are researchers? How many? And what are you researching, for example?
Our program is working with, we're part of the TAA Alliance, so we are actually working with Thoroughbreds in education, so at-risk youth.
Wonderful.
We have other horses as well, but a lot of Thoroughbreds.
I'm sure Claire would love to.
Yeah, I've got a card for you.
Perfect. And what about you?
I'm working with different groups of people and different horses, and measuring heart rate variability mainly as an outcome parameter of both the person and the horse as they interact. And we're finding that when people make a real connection with the horse, their heart rate variability frequencies synchronize with those of the horse.
That's fascinating. So some of you are familiar, and have already worked with Thoroughbreds, who had never worked with Thoroughbreds, or would have thought, wow, that's dangerous, or what are you thinking? Thoroughbreds, really?
So my experience with a thoroughbred is one that I used to own, and she would love to, I'd ride her out on the trail, and then when it was cold, she'd love to dump me and get back to the barn for breakfast. And so I'm wondering if, are thoroughbreds more flighty? Are they less predictable than maybe like quarter horses or another more stable breed?
And that's one of the things that we're trying to figure out, and bearing in mind that there will be as many differences within the group of thoroughbreds that there would be in humans, And go ahead.
We actually work with Thoroughbreds in our traditional therapeutic riding program, and our favorite of all time was a Thoroughbred broodmare. Best therapeutic riding horse we've ever had.
And I think
Like you said, there's so many different personalities within the breed,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think a lot of it depends on how successful they were on the track. The ones who really didn't really want to be, in my opinion, they're just like quarter horses, because they're so sensible. they realize that rushing around as fast as possible is not really what you need to do in life. Whereas the ones who were really had to be at the front of the pack might take a little more time to relax and be just part of the crowd.
Perfect. We have time for one more question or remark.
Oh, it was just, I'm a veterinarian, so I have a very different perspective, but at least to me, thoroughbreds are some of the easiest horses to work with. Yes, they tend to be more sensitive, yes, they tend to have some opinions, but they're also, from a very, very young age, they are used to being interacted with, they're used to being messed with, they're used to being required to stand here, go there, get into a scary dark box because that's how they get to the racetrack. So like, to me, I think they're a group of horses that needs a job, right? Because we've replaced them in a lot of their traditional post-racing. They're not big warm bloods, they're not fancy enough for the dressage, they're not this, that, or the other, but they are incredibly used to human interaction, and I think this is like a really underserved area for them. And I think it takes a little bit of a paradigm shift for people to let go of that, oh, they're crazy, because I think that's probably not true, but it's just a group of horses that they have been handled since the day they were born, that have looked to people for everything, and I think that's a huge resource that we could use. I much prefer them working on, if you give me a 2-year-old colt or a 2-year-old warm blood, I'll take a 2-year-old colt every time.
Thank you so very much. Here we have all the details of Racing to Relate, including Jennifer's email and the contact details in England and France. Feel free to reach out to us. As we said, at the moment there are some research collaboration between France and England and Ireland, but we would be happy to welcome other opportunities for research with universities, with programs. Really, it would be our pleasure. And thank you so much for your patience.